Pochettino is officially staying with the men's national team. MLS owners are set to choose the third ever commissioner, and part two of our USL Premier check-in. That and more on today's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kicker on the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. My name's Robert Kerr, Michigan-based play-by-play commentator for hire. And next to me, my soccer radio man, Jason Davis. How you feeling this morning on a busy Monday morning?
On a Monday. It's a busy Monday. I'm getting ready to head off to Puerto Rico to visit my wife's family and enjoy some time there. Hopefully it doesn't interrupt the show too much, but it means that things are a little chaotic. And then we get news that U.S. Soccer is indeed bringing back Mauricio Pochettino, which we're going to get to. I already threw up a poll in the chat for all of the people watching, ultras and otherwise. So give us your opinion on whether or not it's a good idea to bring Mauricio Pochettino back. Rob Kerr, his resume is available. If you'd like to get your hands on it, just let us know. We'll ship it out to you. Play-by-play man for hire.
You have to manifest things sometimes, you know.
Do.
And then you're manifesting a smooth trip to Puerto Rico. So there's an outside chance. What's the over-under on a family member coming in with like luggage-based questions during the show? Like
very small. Well, this is what's going on in normally. So just to give you a little behind the scenes, little BTS here on what goes down in the illustrious Jason Davis studios here in Northern Virginia. I'm usually here doing the show by myself. Got kids at school. My wife goes to the office, and I'm here, and it's quiet, and I'm focused on my American soccer thing. And I talk to my buddy Rob Kerr, and I interact with all the ultras. Shout out to everybody who's in the building this morning.
Lots of folks on board.
Spencer through the door, number one, catching a live show. Shout out to our guy, Spencer. I think actually you know what? I'm going to make a command decision here. We're going to give a clang today.
That's clang.
Anyway,
for sure.
It's usually very quiet. It's usually by myself, and I get to really focus on this. Wife is here working from home ahead of the trip tomorrow. 5-year-old is out of preschool / daycare for the summer, getting ready for the trip tomorrow. The 18-year-old who starts his college journey later this month is also around. So it's a full house, and it's not usually like that. So I don't think I'm going to get interrupted unless Thiago decides that he really needs to ask me a question about something, I don't know, television related, soccer related. But I think I'm good, Rob. I think I'm the ultras for the next hour.
Yeah, and plenty of ultras in the house. Shout out to all who are checking in. Before we do the roll call, shout out to Mr. Bob leading the way with the donations as always. Thank you, good sir, down there in New Mexico.
It's time. It is time. And as soon as your friend Jason or Rob gets a moment, we are going to make the Be Like Mr. Bob t-shirt. Be like Mr. Bob, because Mr. Bob is the number one biggest booster supporter of this show by a wide margin. And I would encourage all of you competitive people out there to try to catch Bob. That's the new goal. Give Bob a challenge. Right now, he's like Secretariat. What's another good example? He's the Dodgers. He's running away with, like, it's not even close. This is the 82-3 Bulls, or 78 and Bulls. What was the Bulls' best record? I can't remember. One of those years they went like insane. They lost like 4 games or something. That's Mr. Bob. I know we need a sock. He's Barcelona. He's Real Madrid. He's Bayern Munich. Somebody step up and challenge Mr. Bob.
But it's great to see so many MK Ultras stepping in. And speaking of the Be Like Mr. Bob t-shirt, we got to corral a new line of the MK collection, the second run of the MK collection over there on Fourth Wall. We got to get our design minds together over there on the MK Discord. We'll take any input. We got a few ideas manifesting, but as always, we like to be community and kind of sourcing the people out there for some ideas for the merch and other things. But big show ahead. Pochettino, MLS commissioners, and then in part 2 of our USL Premier check-in, because USL hasn't been saying much, we're left to just kind of look through what is publicly available and kind of speculate on who might be the debut teams when the USL Premier is set to check in and be created in 2028. So that's just around the corner. But let's get to today's news. Next up here on Monday's edition, the first one in August here on Kickaround. Let's do it. It's officially official. Mauricio Pochettino continues his stay as the United States men's national team head coach, extending until 2030. And where are we at on this, people? I'm sure everyone's got an opinion as this news rolls out here on August 3rd. He had a record of 17, 12, and 2. We all know how the World Cup went. Some great moments. Went out with a whimper. Didn't seem like he was going to be the guy for the long term. Seemed like a best case scenario in a pinch. 2 years of Pochettino leading into the World Cup, and then now we're going to 2030. And the thing that pops into my mind right off the top of my head to get my opinion out of the way is I just can't see him staying till 2030. I'll prove me wrong.
I know, but that's the thing. Like, do you say no to a new contract and signing him up when there may not be a better option on the market because there's a chance he might leave? Like, I always this is how my brain works. How many of you remember the seminal film Major League? It's about the Cleveland Indians at the time, and they're trying to the owner wants to move the team to Miami and put together a ragtag bunch of pros and ex All-Stars, and they're all at one point Jake Taylor played by who plays the catcher? What's his name? The actor. Now, I thought I was going to line this up really well, and I forgot the actor's name, so my apologies.
The veteran, the elder statesman of the group.
Tom Berenger. Tom Berenger plays Jake Taylor, the catcher, the elder statesman who was playing in Mexico, gets called back, playing for the Indians, goes to the library to see Rene Russo, his ex-girlfriend, and she's like, well, what about the waitress in Detroit or something? And he's like, don't you want somebody who's in demand? And I was like, that's kind of where my brain goes with this thing with Pochettino. Like, he's a guy that should have suitors outside of the U.S. men's national team. I don't know if he did in this moment, right? But I don't know that it's great for us to sort of neg ourselves, Rob. Like, I understand your perspective. Like, from a practical point of view, does he make it to 2030 is something to be concerned about. But I think it's across that bridge when you get to a situation. Because, again, and I've talked myself into Pochettino for round 2 because I don't see somebody better right now. And I saw enough progress with the way that they played, the attitude they showed, the mentality they presented, despite the Belgium thing. And I think I've already said this. I thought that Greg Berhalter telling tales out of school at that conference in New Jersey or New York when he came back from Qatar, that was a disqualifying act.
No doubt.
On Greg Berhalter's part. For me. Now, obviously, the Fed brought him back, and we saw how that ended. I think that Pochettino choosing to start Balogun after the whole controversy around rescinding the ban was close, but not across the line of disqualifying act. Because I get it. I do understand why he decided to play his best striker. Now, I do think that ultimately was the mentality problem, caused the mentality problem that led the U.S. to get romped by Belgium. But give the guy an opportunity to fix it. Give the guy an opportunity to build on what he already built, what he has already done with this team. And I think I'm okay with this. I've rounded into a position of being okay with this.
Yeah, I guess we have to work with what was provided, I guess, by the Federation. And it just seems like a bit of a marriage of convenience. Like, a lot of the good jobs went away for Poch. Like, he's in demand. Like you said, he's an in-demand coach. And what's the over-under on big jobs that come available over the course of this 4 years?
To your point, get ready for rampant speculation every time a top 25 or 30 job in the world opens up. Get ready for that. Yeah.
How many storms can you weather like that?
If Jose Mourinho doesn't last more than a season at Real Madrid, which is possible considering who he is, I know he had the previous success, but he's Jose Mourinho, whatever. The bloom seems to be off the rose, and that's a marriage of convenience for Real Madrid. If Jose doesn't last at Madrid, then yeah, Mauricio Pochettino's name's going to come up. Right? If Xabi Alonso doesn't last at Chelsea, Mauricio Pochettino's name's going to come up. I mean, Chelsea's or Tottenham's rather always going to be a talking point, and we'll see if the Zerbi. None of these guys feel like long-term solutions for these clubs, and so yes, of course, it's going to be a constant. Will Pochettino leave? Will he leave for this club job or that club job? Now, undoubtedly, there's a clause in his contract, right? Right there, there's a buyout. Is that so prohibitive that it might prevent him from running off at the first available job? Now, because if you said it, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's going to be disclosed. But if you set it at a number that is, well, most clubs won't pay it, then you basically leave what? The Premier League clubs are the only ones who might be willing to pay a significant fee to get him out of his contract so he can go manage their team. And again, it's just a reality. Now, there is a difference though, Rob, like in the way that that we think about the U.S. men's national team. Pochettino's the first one, and you don't know if you can replicate this, but he does kind of change the mentality of the job in the sense that it is now, oh, we have to worry about our coach running off and taking a high profile job. But that's like, talk about first world problem. Like that's a privilege almost, right?
Sure, but it just seems to be in line with a pattern of like reactionary decision making. Like if the federation there thought that he was going to leave after the World Cup, which seemed to be the common thought for quite some time. Did they have a list of candidates that were like the next up and comers that they had in mind? Like who did they even have circled as alternatives now? I mean, it's hard to say no. And especially so we're going to get to the ultras. There's plenty of thoughts coming in on this, but I do want to just caveat that with a little bit of detailing, saying the terms of the agreement and specifically the language around buyouts or early termination, if Poch wants to leave for European or other job, were not disclosed.
Right. They're not going to tell us what they are. Yeah.
And then also, I was trying to look to see if obviously he first came in with a philanthropic gift to pay for the original signing of Pochettino. And is that same funding come to do this extension?
Yeah. The appointment and broader investment in the U.S. men's national team program is being supported in significant part by a philanthropic leadership gift from Kenneth C. Griffin, founder and CEO of Citadel and founder of Griffin Catalyst. Additional support has been provided by Scott Goodwin, Adam Freed, and several commercial partners.
So with that in mind, it's hard to say, I guess, if you're in the federation's point of view and Pochettino says, hey, you know what? I am actually interested in sticking around. And the guy who paid for it last time is willing to pony up again. So I guess it's pretty hard for them to say no.
And that's what I said. This is what I said from the very beginning of this process, starting post World Cup, post end of the U.S. men's national team run, is if King Griffin and these partners, or these philanthropic gift givers, are saying, our money is contingent on Pochettino being the head coach of the U.S. men's national team. Like, obviously, if you hired BJ Callahan, you don't have to pay him as much as you pay Mauricio Pochettino. Doesn't command as much salary. Maybe the Fed then says, well, we have that money and we'll pay BJ Callahan to be our head coach the way we paid Greg Berhalter. But if King Griffin and these people are saying, well, we can help you keep the high-profile manager with our gift, then the Fed is going to say no to that money? I mean, obviously, you need to make a decision about your head coach independent of the gift. You need to be like leaving the gift aside in the process of evaluating whether or not Pochettino's the right choice for the next 4 years. But I just think human nature says somebody's offering us millions of dollars to pay our head coach. How do we say no to that? Like, how do we say no to it? It might be irresponsible for a not-for-profit organization like the U.S. Soccer Federation to say no to that, Robert. I mean, I don't know.
I thought you were going to say that thing. It's irresponsible for them to say yes to it because that's not sustainable living there, is it?
It's not sustainable, and you do lead yourself into, okay, now we're beholden to these interests in our decision-making. And I understand, and it is tough, right? Because if you don't have this money, do you have Pochettino? Now, he obviously did not have a World Cup so great that it just demands, well, yeah, of course we're going to keep him, but of course we're going to take the money. So it leaves open the speculation, leaves open the debate, rather, as to whether or not you should be taking the money, because now you are beholden to King Griffin and this crew, or whether he should come back because second cycle coaches and et cetera, et cetera. But again, as I said, he's the most accomplished head coach the U.S. has ever had, period. End of story.
True.
No debate.
Yeah.
it that alone makes it really hard for me to say that it's in good conscience. You can say, well, we probably should move on. Like, I just don't know. Like,
Like,
I
who's
guess
the name that sways you to the contrary, right?
exactly. Like, if Pep's not walking through the door, Jurgen Klopp is off coaching Germany and probably wasn't coming through the door anyway, right? Like, again, you're talking about sort of a second tier of international managers if you're going foreign, or you're talking about the same cast of characters in American soccer, with you're maybe expanding it out to, again, a BJ Callahan who had a cameo as head coach and has done nice things in Nashville, but is by no means accomplished in any reasonable way of discussing that word, right? So then, okay, we're not going back to Bob Bradley. Don't think so. Who else is out there? Who else makes sense? Steve Cherundolo. Again,
Yeah, actually, I was going to take us to the comments and to the ultras here for this open conversation. Did we renew the contract with Poch because it was the easy way rather than the best candidate?
but I think it can be both those things, right? I know there's a bad taste in people's mouths, and I posted this on Blue Sky that I came around on this, and I got Murph in Tampa saying, I'm not coming around. He had 2 years, had 2 tests with the full team, the Nations League in Belgium, and he failed both miserably. But again, the grass is always greener. So Murph's argument is you dump him because he failed in 2 big tests. It does not account for who replaces him. And I don't know that I can justify arguing anybody else is an upgrade. Right? So again, BJ Callahan is not an upgrade on Mauricio Pochettino, guys. He's not. I like him. He is not an upgrade on Mauricio Pochettino. Okay. I'm seeing the argument about De La Fuente had not been a manager before he took the Spain job. He coached the U21s. You can bring in Lino Scaloni as well, another World Cup winning manager who was just a youth national team coach and various other things in the Argentine system before getting the head coaching job. You don't necessarily need to, but those 2 teams are so rich with talent that I don't think you could compare it. All right.
What do you think from this soccer night in Detroit?
Sadly, what U.S. coach is capable of taking the task of being the head coach of the U.S. men's national team? Look, I don't think it's wrong to hire your best and brightest young up-and-coming manager to be your national team coach if you think you are in a good place with your talent and da-da-da-da. I mean, obviously, like, you take what you can get when you're the U.S. men's national team. So the reason we went from Bora to Sampson to Arena to Bradley to Klinsmann and then back to Arena and then Berhalter is because in every case, it was the best we could get. Right? Unless you think some sort of mercenary like Hervé Renard is an upgrade, or you want to go an old guy. Like, for a long time, I was saying Jose Pekerman would be an interesting choice to do the U.S. men's national team. Peckerman's like 78 years old at this point. He's doing television. I don't think we need him. That's not the guy I want anymore. Right? So again, it's like, can beggars be choosers? I guess is the big thing here for me. Can we?
And should they be in that position like that, or should they just internally have like a conveyor belt of candidates always working up? I guess shows a deficiency. And if the philanthropic injection of cash goes away or becomes disinterested, then where does that leave you again? Is it just kind of just go into anyone who's available at that time? It doesn't seem like there's like a good plan in place or some like a host of possibilities at all. It's just like, he's here. We got money. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think it takes a big leap to say he's an accomplished coach. He did some good things. Riverside Grove saying he had us playing the best football we'd ever played, certainly in a World Cup. Like, I don't want us to get lost because of the Belgium game as to what had happened before that. And I know
I'm not like anti-Poch. It just doesn't seem like
I understand.
Plan.
Again, this is a very imperfect second marriage, right? Again,
it's like you don't want to give up the dog.
We didn't break up because we hated each other. We broke up because, I'm not sure it's the best situation. And then we're like, actually, we can't really do better than each other right now. So let's just get back together, right? Like, that's kind of what it is. Okay. Dan is talking about dual nationals. So let's just have a note about dual nationals.
Okay.
Pochettino has not recruited during his time in charge any dual nationals. Who besides Noakai Beggs, who's out there that is like, we got to recruit that guy as a dual national that we need? Or was this like losing Brian Gutierrez to Mexico or losing Obed Vargas to Mexico or something like that, if you want to argue those things?
Was there any corners of the internet that upset that the U.S. lost the Japanese goalie? Was there any
I have not
conversation around
seen
that?
a lot of debate about that. No, I have not. Maybe we should be a little bit more. Where's our?
Because I mean, where's our goalies at? You know.
Sure. Again, like I think of, I understand that because it's the U.S. men's national team job, we think of recruiting as a part of it, as like a major part of it. Because I mean, again, we've always been dependent on dual nationals. It goes all the way back to the beginning of the modern age in 1994. And I understand that, therefore, you slap this extra responsibility on the national team manager that a lot of countries don't bring as part of the discussion. I think from an sort of an ethical perspective, I struggle with the idea of recruiting in international football. Like, I don't love that players say things like, well, I'm not playing for you because you didn't call me in international football. If your choice is independent of your connections to a place or your family or whatever, like if you're choosing a college to go to and that coach didn't call you, so you're not going to go to that college. Okay, fine. I get it. You don't want to go to Penn State because they didn't call you. Don't go to Penn State. Go to Michigan, whatever. But if you're talking about like, I'm American and I'm Italian and I'm German and I'm this and I'm that, and it's like, well, I don't want to play for them because they didn't call me. You play for the country you feel connected to. And I understand that there's going to be a relationship element to it. And I guess you could argue, I was telling the story about Fowler and Balogun to some friends of mine yesterday, that Balogun chose the United States because he liked the vibes and because the fans made him feel wanted by sleuthing him on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it was referenced many times.
Yeah, and is that the right way to choose a national team? I don't know, but it's the way he did it, right? So, and I don't want to judge, but I don't know that I necessarily want. And I know I'm on an island here. I don't know that I love the idea of where our national team head coach's value is so tied to the idea of how many phone calls he makes. Like, ultimately, those players have to make a choice about what country they're connected to, or where they think they're going to play, because that's Balogun's choice too. Like, I'm going to play for the U.S. I'm not going to play for England. He probably could have
goes to his mantra. He wanted guys to specifically who wanted to play there on his team, right?
Yeah,
so he didn't waste any breath on players that were on the fence. Or
I think that's a healthy way to look at this job. Like, if Mauricio Pochettino doesn't want to be on the recruiting trail, more power to him for that. It's international football. Either you want to play for the country or you don't. It shouldn't be up to me calling you. It shouldn't be up to me sending you text messages or flowers or taking you out to dinner when I mean, I shouldn't have to wine and dine you, is what I'm saying. If Noakai Banks wants to play for the United States of America, he'll play for the United States of America. Like, I don't, maybe his decision could come down to how many phone calls people make or whatever, but we know how this goes. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100. The country a kid grows up in always has an advantage. Always. The country a kid sees as the higher level, the higher pedigree, always has an advantage. Right? And then it's like, in the United States, one of our quote unquote problems is that being American can be something you're connected to, but because we're all from somewhere else, we very much want to hold on to the other thing. Rob Kerr, English American, right? Even me, when I was a kid, I'm like every Western European thing you could think of is somewhere in my family tree. And yet, when I was in high school, my brother and my sister and I like, oh, we're so Irish. We're like totally Irish. We're not. There's some Irish family there, sure, but are we really Irish? No, but we connected to that. We wanted to connect to that because being American leaves you on this floating thing in the middle of like, oh, this giant. What is being American? My wife struggles with this because she's Puerto Rican. Puerto Rican's an identity. Being Puerto Rican is an identity. that is so firm, you don't have to think about being anything else. Everybody from Puerto Rico is from Puerto Rico. But here in our country, my family's Mexican, my family's Irish, my family's English, my family's this, my family's that. And then when soccer comes into play and they're like, you can play for the team that all your uncles root for, yeah, you're gonna be inclined to do that, right? I don't know. Like, again, I just think like this is something that the team over the course of its history of winning games and being good has to encourage players to choose us, not a coach making a phone call. That's just me.
Yeah, that identity thing is interesting because somewhere around the World Cup, I saw a reference of Messi's family and if he'd ever considered representing Italy. And like the shock on his, like, because I think his grandfather is like, there's only a couple generations removed from immigrating to Argentina from Italy. And that thought had like, that it clearly had not crossed his mind. And they were instantly Argentine.
There was a moment when he was young because he left Argentina to go to Spain at 13 or 12 or whatever it was. There was a moment when people were like, he might play for Spain. And in fact, until they won the World Cup in 2022, until he got his Copa America and his World Cup, the Argentines, who are very judgy when it comes to this stuff, were like, oh, he's more Spanish than he is Argentine. He left us. He's not us because, Maradona is us. He's not us. Now he's won and he's fully embraced because he's won and because he's brought glory to Argentina. And I understand that.
Yeah. Well, we got a little bit meandering there, but the big news of the day is Mauricio Pochettino coming back to the United States men's national team gig until 2030, according to his new contract. So I'm sure the conversation will continue.
Copa America 2028. Let's hope we get one because I want him to try to win that tournament. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, and his heart would definitely be in that, obviously going against countries down there in South America would definitely be interesting. What's a percentage? Last note on this percentage that America plays in Copa America 2028.
62 votes. Oh, that. I thought you were talking about Poch being a good choice to return. Sorry, what was the question you were asking?
I guess that's probably the better. I was going to say, do we play? Everyone's kind of jumping to the conclusion that we're playing Copa America. Are we actually going to?
Yeah. That's a good. We need to kind of. I mean, again, there's an assumption out there. We will see. As for our poll, is Poch returning as U.S. men's national team head coach a good idea? 62 votes, 77% say yes.
Oh, well, fair enough. Let the debate continue, but in favor here, early goings here on August 3rd. But we'll come right back with part 2 of our USL Premier check-in here on Morning Kickaround. Welcome back in Morning Kickaround. On Friday, we went through the first half of the USL Championship, picking and choosing, looking to see what teams are qualifying for the USL Premier that is proposed to kick off in 2028. And with not a whole lot of news since the initial announcements, we're kind of left to kind of piece things together to see where we're at. And so we're at part 2 and catch you up if you weren't here on Friday. So far, our yeses from USL Championship, Birmingham, Colorado Springs, Detroit, and Louisville City fell into our yes category of ready to become premier teams. And we listed Hartford and Vegas as maybes. We're going to work our way through this second half of the list. And then there's an expansion team there at the bottom of the list. And then there's also some cities that are maybe trying to build directly into the Premier League with some bigger stadiums and plans in the works. And so that's the scene to kick off part 2 of our USL Premier check-in.
That last part you said about teams sort of like expanding directly into Premier is an interesting thing. Obviously, that's the way of MLS. You expand in MLS. There are examples of clubs that started as lower division enterprises and then were quote unquote promoted. I don't know. That's an interesting one. Also worth mentioning, as we said on Friday, the guy that's supposed to run this league, Tony Scholes.
Where in the world is Mr. Tony Scholes?
Is nowhere to be found as far as we can tell. He has not popped up in any media. He's not given any interviews. We don't know if he's got an office with his name on it down there in Tampa, which I'm assuming is where he will be working. So again, and I just kind of, because we were talking about this on Friday, and I saw that over on the USL Pro subreddit, there was a post about this. Like, who do you think is going to be in Premier? And sort of the same things we're asking. And the first response from somebody was, I will talk about USL Premier when USL talks about USL Premier. It's gone quiet. It's very unclear what's happening with that. So I thought I'd bring that up, Rob. Go ahead.
All right, so we have 4 yeses and 1 maybe from the existing USL Championship teams. And so moving along in alphabetical order, we're going to the Miami FC. Are they a USL Premier debut season team?
So what we know about the Miami FC is they draw nothing right now at their college football stadium. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm kind of made a joke in the Morning Kickaround Discord server. If Miami could handle hosting an Inter Miami game at the same time as a Miami FC game, in jest because Miami, I think, lucky if they hit 4 figures there at the Miami FC.
Yeah, they struggle. It's a 20,000 seat venue. Rob, are you aware? I think there might be a change coming. I think maybe the agreement is expiring or something. But are you aware that Florida International University, the home of the Panthers, the stadium, 20,000 seat capacity where Miami FC plays their games, it's called Pitbull Stadium? Were you aware it's called Pitbull Stadium?
I was aware, and I heard the university might change their whole naming. I don't know. I don't think they're calling it Pitbull University, but there's apparently a push to rebrand.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Okay. Well, so right now, the Miami FC meets the metropolitan size requirement. They meet the stadium requirement. You know, they meet some of the things that we have listed as PLS requirements that obviously there could be waivers, but better to have some clubs that don't need waivers. However, what do we also know about Miami FC, Rob, in terms of their stadium?
Marcus Rose just said it. One of our MK Ultras, the Miami FC is moving to Homestead, which is a huge sprawling development there, very, very far south of Miami. Looking to relocate, perhaps to find new fans in a different population area, or it's kind of a dangle in a giant construction and real estate project.
I think it could be a lot of things at the same time. Let's be clear. There is a group. I don't know if it's private equity necessarily in terms of the labeling, but there's a group of investors who are trying to do something in Homestead that involves building out a bunch of fields for various youth sports to capture youth sport dollars, which we know are massive, billions and billions of dollars spent on youth sports in America. So the stadium for Miami FC seems to be part of this, like wrapped up in this idea of this bigger business. They are planning for 15,000 seats, Rob, which would say to me they are very clearly eyeing USL Premier. And I think Miami's in. Like, I think if they get this stadium built, even if they don't, I think because they don't need waivers on so many things, they will be a USL Premier team from jump. And even if they move to Homestead, which Luis Blanco is saying is not ideal, and again, it is down there, right? It is exurbs at best for Miami. I still think that this is going to be one of those teams.
So I am going to put Miami FC into our day 2, part 2 yes category. This is a PLS qualifying list, right?
Yes. We're starting with that, right? We're allowing for the possibility of waivers, and there are clubs that's like, well, they just need 1 waiver, or they could be building a new stadium, or whatever that might be. And I think obviously our goal is to get to 12 because that's what you need, again, according to the PLS, to launch a first division. 35 miles from downtown Miami is where Homestead is. 35 miles.
And I think it's funny. This is truly an American soccer thing that the team that barely draws like 1,000 people we'd put them in the category of they're in trouble. They might be closing down, but we are here speculating that they would be qualifying for the first division.
That's because another element that another element of the PLS that they qualify for, one of the requirements they meet is ownership's net value, net worth, right? Ricardo Silva, you know, I haven't checked in specifically on Ricardo recently, but people know Ricardo Silva is one of the fly in the ointment guys in American soccer. He and Rocco Comiso, you know, I haven't checked in specifically on Ricardo recently, but people know Ricardo Silva is one of the fly in the ointment guys in American soccer. He and Rocco Comiso were major parts of the NASL, of its push to grow, obviously of its challenge to U.S. soccer in court and things of that nature. Ricardo Silva offered, I think, Major League Soccer $1 billion for their television rights if they would
I forgot
institute
about that.
pro-rel,
Yeah, yeah,
which
that was
he
wild.
knew, was not going to be accepted. It was completely a PR play, right? He's trying to shake things up, rock the boat, right? So anyway, I think this is interesting because Ricardo Silva has clearly operated Miami FC as it's his pet project, right? It's an ego play to have a club, and obviously he wants to be part of whatever the next wave of American soccer, professional soccer might be, without being MLS, because he doesn't want, because he can't put an MLS team in Miami, and I don't think he wants to be MLS, so that relationship is not to his liking anyway.
All right, moving along from Miami FC, who is a yes, we're going to Monterey Bay, a team I'll admit I don't know a great deal about, to be fair.
So here's the story on Monterey Bay. Fresno was playing in the USL. Was that just Fresno FC? I know Fresno's trying again, and we've talked about that story that Fresno is trying again. Fresno FC was the previous club that played in the USL Championship. They died because of a lack of a stadium plan, and then the rights were purchased by the guys who launched the team in Monterey, California, Monterey Bay. So, and Monterey, this is a weird place for a second division soccer team, and an even weirder place for the idea of a first division soccer team. I cannot see Monterey Bay being USL Premier. The area isn't nearly dense enough population wise to meet any of that requirement, so you would need a waiver there. I don't think their stadium meets the requirements, and I don't know about the money behind them, but it's such a weird situation. I believe Sebastian Lletget is playing for them now and has a part ownership in the team. It's a weird one.
So we're gonna mark that as a no for now at the very least. And then a team up next in alphabetical order that just got a boost to their premier hopes. And New Mexico United, obviously they draw well, great ownership, but they've been in a baseball stadium. It's a big baseball stadium.
Yeah.
It's in this scale at least 10 to 15,000, right? But they just got good news in a legal battle in a venue that they'd like for a soccer specific stadium. So their run for first division it's got a little better recently.
Yeah, so I just see that there's a little bit of a back and forth happening in the chat. Shout out to Mr. Bob and Marcus who are going back and forth. Guys, be civil, be nice. All right. So the whole thing about the Balloon Fiesta Park, look, and I don't want to get into the weeds here on that, because there's legal stuff, there's the NIMBY things, there's the lawsuits, as you said, and obviously people on the ground will have a better sense of this. I think New Mexico is probably lined up to be a Premier League club, a USL Premier club. I think they check a bunch of boxes, and then you have this. Of course, you have the stadium, right? They will have to have a plan. They could, I imagine, depending how close they are to getting their project off the ground with the Balloon Fiesta Park or whatever, U.S. Soccer may give them a waiver, right? Dan is saying that they come here for the weeds. So maybe we should do the weeds. I just, what I'm saying, obviously, Dan, you know what I mean, is like, it's tough for us to know where things are in terms of progress when it comes to lawsuits, when it comes to again, we know there's a plan. What we don't know is how close it is to being enacted so they can build a 15,000 seat stadium and meet all their requirements.
All right, so I've got New Mexico United as a yes, our second yes of part two. Moving up to a team kind of embroiled in venue issues at the moment, Oakland Roots, USL Premier team.
Oakland Roots, man.
They had a game, I think, on Saturday. The game happened at the Coliseum on Saturday.
The game happened, and we have been following this saga of them being them facing a bill from Oakland, from the city of Oakland or Alameda County or whoever's operating the stadium, and all of that. I'm gonna say again, this is more about vibe than anything. They're an established club. They meet all the population requirements. It's a big market, right? That's what I mean.
Famous.
They have to figure out the stadium thing in the long term. I suppose that if you get to Premier, maybe you get into investment and then you're paying off the bill to play in the Coliseum, so you meet the requirement. et cetera, et cetera. I think Oakland has to be in, right?
Yeah, I was actually having this conversation about what the private equity injection into USL should be doing. And I think private equity, if they're here for the long haul, would be to help teams like Oakland Roots survive this spell and either prop them up financially or set up one of those temporary stadiums for them wherever they can and help one of their more established teams and brands and ownership groups in a kind of a hungry for pro sports sort of area in Oakland. They need to help them survive because you'd think that you'd want them in Premier, like the club itself and the
Right.
branding and
Right.
the group and the population and the area that it represents. You want that in the Premier, but the short term, the here and now with their venue, puts that in danger.
Yeah, yeah, you're I mean, there is a thing in my head where it's like, do you want to prop teams up sort of artificially just to get them over the line? Because then if you
Because
take
it's
away
such
the
an
scaffolding,
unusual situation right now.
yes, right. I mean, and again, like you also get into this weird place of if you're bringing money into the league and then the league's money through private equity investment or whatever is being distributed in order to do something. And again, I know people have their opinions of about private equity and whether that is there for the long term. But if you're talking about that, okay, well, Oakland needs money to do X and Y stadium situation. Does that mean another team isn't going to get money? Who did?
Well, I know it's a funky spot. I'm not going to say that's simple, but helping teams, maybe, if the money is that big, it's a have and a have nots world. And those with a lot of money at disposal, maybe they can help a lot of teams.
Yeah, and again, like part of the thing about the private equity money coming into USL is are these individually run clubs and independent? They're independent clubs, right? In the USL, that's one of the things that differentiates USL from MLS is that when Peter Trevisani says, I own New Mexico United, he's being factually accurate. He owns New Mexico United. And they therefore interact with the league. They enter into a contract with the league to be part of the organized competition. And that's USL's product is the organized competition. They don't own the clubs. They own the organized competition. And if Peter Trevisani or the Oakland Roots owners or anybody else says, you know what, this isn't the right league for us, a la Detroit City, who moved into this league from other places, they can presumably take now there's contracts and again and penalties and all kinds of stuff that will impact whether they will actually do it. But they could say, nope, we're taking our ball and we're going to a different league. Right. So then what is the private equity? How is the private equity money impacting where can you spend it if the money is in the league? Are you giving grants to clubs or are you buying a portion of the club from a league perspective? Now, private equity, Bell Tower, whoever owns part of New Mexico United, if they inject money into New Mexico United to help them build this, I don't know. Like, I don't know those things. And maybe I'm
And those are all
doing
things a press conference for USL could answer if there are indeed answers to those questions, right? And
yeah.
I've chuckled quite a bit about Simon Evans's reaction to me asking about a USL press conference. I'm going, I've never been to one. That was pretty funny. But so Oakland Roots, should I put them in the maybes or the yeses?
I think you have to put them in the yes for now. I do think you have to put them in the yes for now. I think it would be strange if they weren't in there, right? So, and again, tough stadium situation. Really, it seems like a big leap to just dump them into Premier with these questions. But as long as they are playing, and because there aren't clear 100% locked in major metropolitan areas, stadium situations sorted, all those things, I think you have to put Oakland in there to make the numbers.
Okay. I've got them in there. All right, moving right along to Orange County SC. What do we think of them?
Man, this is an interesting one. Long-standing club, like decent history. They've won this league before. They are obviously sort of in the suburban sprawl of Southern California and LA. So you have to say that they have plenty of they meet the population requirement. Don't doubt about that. They play at Championship Soccer Stadium in Irvine, which is a pretty little venue, but it's like one stand, Rob.
Really?
It's not. Now, could they throw up a bunch of other stands? to make the 15,000 because I think, well, maybe it's not one stand, but it's smaller stands around the other sides of the stadium. That's my mistake. You can't see some of these stands the way that the images are, but they're small. 6,000 capacity. So I guess you would be putting in big new stands if you wanted to meet 15,000. If that was the requirement, I don't think they own that stadium. Right? Either the city of Irvine or the county owns the stadium because there was that whole thing we had with the LA Galaxy a couple years ago, where the Galaxy were trying to swoop in and take the stadium for their second division team for their USL Next Pro or MLS Next Pro team rather, and Orange County had to fight them off. And man, I don't know. Like they don't feel like a first division team to me, but that doesn't mean they can't be.
So Andy, we have an expert, regular viewer, Andy, non-MK Ultra for reasons. There's been gifts out there, Andy, but he says Orange County's a no unless the ownership changes. Our owner is rich, but he's not $50 million stadium rich. And he also adds that the city of Irvine owns their stadium.
Right. So basically, unless you're saying we're going to buy the stadium and improve it and put 15,000 seats in, from an economic perspective, it's dicey. Now, again, like that could happen. That could happen when USL started going around and doing their monorail pitch with Justin Papadakis. That they were never saying we want to build the stadium 100% private funds. I think in some cases they did talk about that, but in a lot of cases they were talking about renovating, rehabilitating existing venues to be the home for a USL team. Maybe that could be a thing. I see Riverside Grove mentioning Greg Scott, who I do want to get on this show. I still can't believe we haven't had Greg Scott on this show. He's the guy launching a team in Riverside, California, which is Orange County is not Inland Empire. This is all the geography of Southern California, and mine is imperfect. But I believe Orange County is south of LA proper, and then you have Inland Empire, which is east of LA. Riverside seems like a perfect place for some sort of professional soccer team. It's just, will that be a premier team? And I know that's not on our list, Rob, but just because it's in the region and it's got mentioned by Riverside Grove, we should throw it out there.
Yeah, definitely. And then so maybe Orange County is one of those teams that pops up in the early iterations of promotion and relegation, PLS pending. But as far as the regulations as they stand for first division,
there's a lot of things I like about Orange County SC. They're not flashy. They're not. It's kind of hard to, they don't. I don't know how to describe them without it making me feel like I'm negging them. I'm not. I think Orange County is kind of a model of what a lower division soccer team in America can be if they're smart about how they operate. And we need more clubs like that. But of course, again, we can never get to a place of like, we're cool where we are. It's always, we've got to go bigger and grow and be ambitious and things like that.
Phoenix Rising, obviously one of they definitely had some moments of excitement with Didier Drogba playing and being owner and of various celebrity ownerships, and they've had their own stadium deals. What would you think of Phoenix Rising and the USL Premier?
Phoenix is 100% a city that USL wants to put a premier team in. Absolutely. Yeah. Phoenix Rising has stood the test of time despite always kind of having to figure out their stadium situation. It's a little shocking to me, and I don't know. I don't know what the state of their ownership in terms of ambition is. Like, I know it's the same group of people. Berkey Bakai was the main guy as far as I knew. Brett Johnson, who I think is also involved in Rhode Island is a founder. I don't know if he's still involved. I don't know. Again, the money is, because if you go look at their list of owners, it is long.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's changed over the years.
Yeah, it's changed over the years. So do they have the sort of wealth behind them and the ambition to go and figure out the stadium deal finally, like get it done? Because again, they've kind of done these modular stadium things in a couple of different places now. I think they've moved around a little bit. They have, and it's getting mentioned by Chris here, there is that other group or some other idea, and we did look at the insane AI generated rendering of the stadium that was planned for like Mesa or something. It was nuts. Apparently, I didn't realize that the cacti could get that big.
Yeah, vegetation really does grow 50 feet in the air.
Apparently it does. But that looming is interesting. I don't know that has anything to do with whether or not Phoenix should be a USL Premier team. Yes, I think the answer is yes. Right now, their stadium is 10,000 seats. So if you can get the ownership to stump up the money to put an extra 5,000 in, I think you have to do it. So yes.
So Phoenix Rising is our fourth yes of part 2. So moving on to our next USL Championship team, Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Fascinating team, reigning champions. Are they a USL Premier team?
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously they have a plan, right? Their ambition is we want to be a first division team. Therefore, we are going to put more seats in our stadium so we can meet the requirement. Right? That we've looked at this again. This is such an interesting looking stadium and such an interesting idea. Now, again, they're trying to work within their footprint. That our review of this remains our highest viewed video of all time. And that I love that. I love that this is what they're doing. Like, hey, this thing is coming, USL Premier. We've been here. Riverhounds are how old? At least 15 years old at this point, I would bet. Maybe older than that. Somebody give me a date of founding. They've won titles. They've been consistently good. I think they draw pretty damn well considering their division and the stadium. Obviously, the views that everybody talks about the views. That's why you leave it open like this, right? That's why you don't figure out a way to put a stand on the river
train
side.
Tracks and the river and everything else that's there.
Sure, you can't. Well, I wonder if they could get air rights and build over the train tracks, which would be a pretty incredible thing. But again, you block the view. So anyway, my point is, absolutely, I think that Pittsburgh has to be in the mix as a USL Premier team.
All right, Pittsburgh.
1999, Bill says. I undersold them by about 10 years, or 15 years. So shout out to the Riverhounds who go back to 99.
Shout out to any team in the United States operating that has the 90s or earlier in their
born in the
founding
1900s.
Dates.
Oh my God, you're so old.
From the last century? My God. All right. So next up on the list is a place that we're familiar with and was the subject of the one of the most recent Pablo Torre Finds Out episodes, Rhode Island FC.
Yeah, I haven't listened yet.
Team?
I haven't listened yet.
I caught up at work yesterday, and there's a significant connection.
Is it Dice? Is it their? Did they do something wrong? Kawhi's involved, right? That's what this is about.
Well, yeah, it's more of the spider web of the Kawhi Leonard thing that there's an LLC and him connected that's RIFC and various people involved in finding the public funding that eventually went into the stadium had, ancillary connections and had stammering answers when they got rung up on the phone.
Oh no. Okay. I mean, all of that stuff is incestuous when it comes to investment. All that. I'm not trying to let them off the hook.
But that podcast is really good. The one guy, the Marlins executive that he has on the show, the really super intense on New York type guy, he spells out the playlist for teams petitioning to get public money. They had literally the scripting. And so now when you hear those interviews, you literally hear the bullet points of what these sort of team execs do when they're petitioning, or actually basically paving the way for politicians to be able to say yes.
Right.
To things.
Yes. Yeah. There's some icky stuff there that I don't really want to touch. If we're just kind of evaluating Rhode Island FC where they are, we've been there, we saw it. They want to put extra seats in to meet the 15,000 seat requirement. Their stadium is amazing really cool for that level of soccer in America. The fact that they got built is such a stunner for me. Obviously, Louisville is an example of this, and we're seeing more clubs build and things of that nature. But Rhode Island FC has to be in there, right? Does Providence meet the population requirement? Or are they going to need a waiver on that if that's an effect?
Yeah. So I put them in our yeses. Rhode Island FC, USL Premier, yes.
Well, I'm saying what's the population of Providence? That's what I was asking you.
Oh, my bad. I was distracted by Tim local out there. I was reading.
I'm saying that Providence and Warwick has 1.7 million together. That's Southern Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So I think we're good. Okay, good.
Yeah. So I've got Rhode Island FC in the yeses. and probably one of only a few teams that already have the stadium plans in motion to reach the Division One benchmark is
Yeah,
the next team up
absolutely.
in the list, Sacramento
Oh.
Republic.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, there's no debate. There's no question, right? Net worth requirement met. Stadium, they're building that, so they're going to meet that requirement. They're in a major market. I mean, major by USL standards. Not sure what Sacramento's population is. Uh, they can boast being the place of my birth, so that's a good thing. Add that to the column of reasons to put them in USL Premier. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's nothing else to say about Sacramento, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the easier ones to put in there. Indeed, especially with the new stadium plans in the works there. So San Antonio FC, would they be a USL Premier
Oh,
team?
I mean, I think that I think so. I mean, I think again they check a bunch of the boxes already. I know the stadium there isn't big enough at the moment to meet the 15,000 seat requirement. So I don't know if you're looking at a waiver or if their ownership group, but I believe it's the San Antonio Spurs ownership group that own San Antonio FC, if they would be willing to put in another, it looks like another 7,000 seats to meet the requirement. I've been to that stadium. It's cool for what it is. I think there is some space to build an extra deck if you need to. So I think they probably designed it to be expandable down the line if and when that was required. So I think they probably have to be a yes, San Antonio.
Putting San Antonio in the yes category. And shout out to Harry. Hopefully, Harry, you're listening and doing well. One of our very earliest dedicated listeners. Harry is a super fan of San Antonio. So Harry, if you're still tuning in, hope you're doing well. But there was a story out of San Antonio last week that we didn't cover on the show, that the pressure is mounting on San Antonio and the Spurs group to pay a non-MLS expansion fine. Apparently,
Yeah.
part of the provision there was the news out of Express News here. The Spurs organization will pay the city of San Antonio and Bexar County a penalty of $2.6 million because it failed to lure MLS to Alamo City, a requirement under a decade-old soccer stadium deal.
Yeah, I was covering the story on the United States of Soccer, my old radio show. It's Bear County, by the way, Rob. I know you wouldn't know that. I didn't know that either. It's Bear
A
County.
silent X?
It's a
Bahar?
silent X. It's Bear County. That's
Bear,
what I've been
okay.
told.
Bear.
They have judges, and I can't remember the specific judge's name, but they have judges in Bear County. And when they say judge, they don't mean somebody who sits on a bench and decides court cases. They mean basically the county executive is called the judge of Bear
Not
County.
Judge Dredd.
I specifically remember. No, I doesn't wear a helmet as far as I'm aware. That specific judge was very upset about the way the whole MLS thing played out because if you recall, San Antonio was angling for MLS. That's why I've been to San Antonio twice. One of those trips was because they brought me out to talk about their plans to go MLS. Right? They were very much in a public relations, public media, a media relations place, and they brought me out. They paid for my trip and all this stuff. They obviously didn't get it in part because who brought his team from Columbus and basically pushed MLS into giving him a team in Austin. So the fact that Anthony Precourt got a team just up the road in Austin basically precluded San Antonio from getting an MLS team because at the time they're just, I don't know if they could both support one. They're very close, right? It's a little bit DC Baltimore, and maybe it's not fair because maybe San Antonio could. But it seems as though that's why San Antonio wasn't going to get MLS because Austin did. And that judge is very upset. I think they have to be premier. I don't know about the fine, I don't know about that stuff, but I think San Antonio has to be in our list.
All right, I've got San Antonio on the yes section. And then next up, an interesting one, Sporting Jacks. New this year, have been playing in a temporary venue, kind of, I think, a big high school, actually, right? But they have plans for a 15,000 stadium in amongst a whole new development district in a nearby St. John's Town Center. And we've covered this a bit in the past on the show. And so there were another one where it's like the stadium could happen and they could be a shoe-in with a shiny new 15,000 stadium. But right now it's a modest, team on the field, I guess,
Yeah, it's kind of
in
like
practice.
there's a lot of ambition there. They seem to check all the boxes on paper, but it's not finalized to the point of like, yep, we're doing this, it's done, everything's good, check, check, check. Um, for that reason, I mean, man, I think for that reason they can't be on the list.
Should we put
There's
them in
just
the
too.
maybes or just a no?
I think it's got to be. Well, I think they're playing in a college football venue right now. Rob, is that right? Is
Hodges
that
Stadium on the campus of North Florida.
yeah? And Hodges Stadium does seat enough to meet. Oh, 12,000 is what I'm seeing. So they play in a college football stadium that is, again, basically one giant stand. It looks like a high school stadium. You're right, because it's one giant stand, and on the other side, I think, is a smaller stand. I don't know about like one of the things that's required is the stadium has to be enclosed. Like it has to have controllable ingress and egress, and that seems dicey in that stadium, if you ask me. I don't know. I mean, obviously they do it for football games. It's not impossible to control that. But I can't say, yeah, there's a tracker on that stadium as well. American Groundhopper is pointing out. I can't see them right now until they get that stadium under construction, and then you can say we can see the future. I think so. No, I think no.
Oh, all right. I typed it in the maybes, but I'll remove it from maybes there. All
I mean,
right.
it's maybe because it's Jacksonville, and that's about it. What else do they have going for them that makes you think, oh, that's a team that belongs in a first division league?
I mean, they've got an NFL franchise that's not to be discounted.
Well,
That's
that's what I'm
as
saying.
first
It's
division as it comes.
it's a major market, but the team itself, again, without a state, like the reason we're putting Sacramento in the yes category is because Sacramento has their stadium plan already done. They've got a history of being one of the highest attended teams in that division, right? They've got ambitious
They're
ownership behind
established in
them.
pedigree. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's tough to put a team with so many unknowns like Jacksonville on the list.
Moving along, Tampa Bay Rowdies, one of the most successful teams at this level and one of the most long-standing brands.
As long as they can meet the stadium requirement or get a waiver, yes. Right? Yes.
Yeah.
It would be crazy if Tampa Bay wasn't in the first division for USL Premier when they launched. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be. Just, yeah, for namesake alone, and they have a quality stadium, and a great experience from what I know. I really hope that we make it down there, and we've got some ultras down in that area as well. But so I've got them on the list, and so of teams that exist and are already operating,
Well,
we have as far as
just
yeses.
because Andy's in the chat, I just want to acknowledge him again. I don't know why Andy's not an ultra. It feels like he is an ultra. But anyway, the Tampa Bay Sun have that plan to build a stadium, Rob, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know where that is. How do we know where that is at all? That was going to be the not only a stadium
Because there's
for
like an Ybor City plan, and there's a lot
yeah.
of different things swirling around out there. So I think I'm not 100% sure. Um,
Yeah, this is a 15,000 seat stadium plan, multi-purpose development. It would also be the headquarters for USL because Tampa is where USL is based. This is the one that's in that Ybor City location, like right on the water. We looked at some of these renderings; they're incredible. But again, it seems as though I haven't seen any progress. It's been a year since they made this announcement, June of 2025, and I haven't seen. And maybe I'm just missing the news, but I haven't seen any further progression on this plan. So anyway, just throwing that out there.
and so for teams that are already operating out there, we have as the yeses for the debut USL Premier sides when that league launches in 2028. We have Birmingham, Colorado Springs, Detroit City, Louisville City, Miami FC, New Mexico United, Oakland Roots, Phoenix Rising, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, Rhode Island FC, Sacramento Republic, San Antonio, and Tampa Bay Rowdies. But
Okay,
you'll see
that's
here
13.
on 13. That's decent, right? That's
Yeah.
decent. Some might fall off here and there as time progresses. Obviously, not everyone on 100% solid ground here. And then in our maybe category of Hartford, Vegas, and Jacksonville. But you'll see here on this graphic, Atletico Dallas. And as of right now, they are set to start play next year in the USL Championship. Do you think that they would be a USL Premier day oneer?
Yes. In fact, I think that's been the plan from the beginning. I think that, their birth is predicated on the idea that they're going to be a USL Premier team. And obviously, there's no issue with the capacity of the stadium. It's not a good fit. It's too many seats for them. We know that. And Chicharito Hernandez will help with some of that in terms of selling tickets. And people we know in Dallas have been telling us, and we saw it in the Discord, like the explosion of media interest around Atletico Dallas has been immense after the announcement of Chicharito Hernandez coming to the club. So they did something to get the heat they need to make people aware of their existence in Dallas. Hopefully they'll draw a significant number of people. I don't even have a gauge on that when they start next year, Rob. Like, I don't even know. 10, 15? I have no idea what their level should be in a stadium where they can put as many people as they want. Basically, it's almost like an unlimited situation. Now, they do want to control some things, limit costs. You obviously aren't going to open up the entire building and have people climbing up to the top of the Cotton Bowl to watch your team play. So there is that. But that's a giant market. I think a lot of people in USL, the people we talk to at Atletico Dallas, even though they're not trying to be antagonistic with FC Dallas, they see a huge gap in that marketplace for soccer fans, and they want to fill it, and that would make them USL Premier candidates.
And yeah, FC Dallas also a little bit vulnerable with their capacity limitations that they have in this multi-year reconstruction of their stadium there, which is also puts them at a little bit of a handicap during this big push Atletico Dallas is making, because they're hitting all the PR moves right now. And I've seen international outlets covering Atletico Dallas signing Chicharito. And so obviously that definitely did what it needed to do. We'll see if that translates to on the field, but he's definitely done the job there with that PR last week of that announcement. And so we're at 14 right now, but I will note that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 teams with like asterisks as far as they're not on solid ground right now, and I hope that they are able to last until 2028 and be on solid ground and be big time and future contributor to the USL and what they're trying to do. But there are other teams out there to add to this list that could be building to go directly into the league. And one of the videos that we talked about was the brand reveal for Oklahoma City, and you have to believe that they are gearing towards being in the top possible league.
You say that, and I agree. They feel like they're doing all the things necessary, but that stadium is not going to be 15,000. So you would have to give Oklahoma City rather a waiver for stadium capacity. I'm not saying that that's a reason to keep them out. And again, I understand everybody wants to argue about whether the standards are correct or not. Why wouldn't you let a team with that ambition in Oklahoma City, building a brand new stadium, be in the first division, even if they don't meet every requirement? I'm just saying, again, there might be a limit to what U.S. Soccer is willing to do in terms of waivers. And all of this has to be negotiated with the possibility, with the likelihood, with the plan to bring promotion and relegation into this.
And so are there any other teams out there that you'd like to talk about that are in that same sort of area, or maybe they have a more modest stadium now that we've discussed in the past? It seems, I mean, there's the Space Coast project. What were they shooting for, do you think?
I think we'd have to go with double check. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think most of those stadiums are looking at 10 to 12 as their capacity for the most part. I mean, footprint wise, I think it's going to be tougher for them to build 15. There obviously, again, some of those are possibles, but so, I'm seeing in the chat, one of the discussions is, all right, so you populate a first division. What does that mean for the championship? Because now you're taking a bunch of teams out of the championship. Now, championship right now is 29 teams.
No, not that many. It was, if you look
25,
at that graph.
sorry, 25 teams. So I missed it by 4. 25 teams. And how many of
we took away 14 just then.
Okay, so now you're down, you're down to 11 teams. You're going to have to find a couple. And look, I think there will be some of those new expansion teams that will go to the championship to fill those slots. It could also be that a couple of USL League One teams are ready to move up and become championship teams. And again, you're trying to do Pro Rel anyway, so you're gonna have to get your clubs ready for that to be able to survive. And I saw somebody ask, don't they need to prove, I think it was Dan, do they need to prove that they can handle relegation? Right? Like, don't these clubs need to prove that they can handle relegation? Well, what about promotion? Because there's more costs that come with going up a division.
Zach
right?
bringing
So
up RIP NCFC, they also put that out in the ether that they'd come back with a stadium and a
I
premier
forgot about that.
move.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think you cannot discount the possibility that North Carolina FC comes back and tries to push their way into Premier. And again, I think that's what they were
Super
aiming for.
cynical, but yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird one because they're out of sight, out of mind right now. But yeah, we have to mention them. And by the way, again, if you're USL, are you looking to just meet the bare minimum to start the league? 12. Your 12 strongest candidates. And then as I think I think the idea would be, and they may even have laid this out initially, right? You start with 12 and then you're adding, and that kind of means there might not be relegation for a little while. Because
Oh
what you
yeah, I
do,
feel like there's like at least a 3-year buffer there.
yes, right. I think they might have talked about that. Right. So
Well, you're gonna have a
again,
premier team for 1 year and go down right off the bat. That'd be wild.
yeah, that's not going to happen. So you'll have Premier launch with maybe 12 teams. We've identified 13 possible. Then there's the expansion teams and that kind of expansion projects, right? That could come in. So maybe you start with 12. Then you're like, again, 3 or 4 or 5 years because you want to get up to what? 18? You have to add 2 within the next 3 years. So you know that. But then you're probably talking about, getting to 18 or 20. And before you even say, all right, now you can be relegated. And now
then does that then stretch the championship? If the championship is smaller, there's like not conferences, so they're probably going more national at that point if they're a smaller league than they were before. And then all of the they're talking about a much bigger third tier in the USL League One, like that has to have a massive expansion too.
I mean, that's what Dan's talking about, logistics, what you just mentioned. 12 teams across 48 states, right? And again, the requirement is you have to cover 3 time zones, Eastern, Central, and Pacific. Phoenix is a mountain time zone city, right? So Phoenix could be in there. Colorado Springs, we talked about them on Friday. They could be in there, but you're going to need to have those other 3 represented. You know that. So you know there's going to be coast-to-coast travel. In year 1, because you're only 12 teams, you're probably doing single table, even if you're doing playoffs at the end. So you're coast to coast. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and well, definitely this is going to be something, unless USL starts coming out with a lot of news and whatnot, we're going to have to continue kind of like speculate and put the puzzle pieces together of what this might look like here. And it's supposed to launch in just 1.5 years. How about that? It's coming ever closer, and lots of details to come and around answered. So we'll cross our fingers. But one more time, our list of yeses: Birmingham, Colorado Springs, Detroit, Louisville City, Miami FC, New Mexico United, Oakland Roots, Phoenix Rising, Pittsburgh, Riverhounds, Rhode Island FC, Sacramento Republic, San Antonio, Tampa, and Atletico Dallas. But who knows who falls out of business and who pops up out of the ether in the meantime. It really is an uncharted territory here.
Yeah, and just like we can kind of think of this as a break here, and as we hit a couple of news items, and I know I want to talk about MLS for just a second before we wrap up the show. I know we're in overtime already, extra time already. I mentioned Fresno and the rights for Fresno FC being sold to Monterey Bay and that being a team in the championship. Fresno wants it. They're trying to figure out a team, and they're working on something. And I guess we just had, we've got the continuing. They're in some agreement with USL. Who knows where that is? I don't know if there's any new information on that, but Fresno is a city you need to keep an eye on, because I think that's a big enough market that they could be a player in some sort of division USL wants to run. Somebody mentioned USL Iowa. We had some movement on that this year in the last couple of months. Haven't seen any further traction there. And then I think this should probably be a USL League One team at best. But Santa Rosa, California would also like to have a team or something, but they're having trouble finding someone to foot the bill and be the owner. So just a couple of notes there on soccer under construction kind of stories, Rob.
Yeah, lots of news hopefully to come in the near future. We'll follow right along here on Morning Kickaround and stick with us. There's a big vote here today, and we'll talk about MLS and what's going on there when we come back here on Morning Kickaround. big things happening in Major League Soccer last week at the All-Star break. The competition committee proposed a plan or presented a plan to the owners about a roster overhaul. But one thing for sure that is happening is there will be a new MLS commissioner. And I believe the owners are voting on 2 different candidates today to replace the long-standing second ever commissioner, Don Garber.
There's going to be final presentations today. And as you said, Larry Berg, part owner of LAFC, and then former Fox executive David Nathanson. The shift here that's coming. So think about the changes that MLS is about to go through. The roster rules, I think, are going to happen. The roster rule changes. I think that's going to happen. So that proposal, which came last week, they're going to move in some direction that's going to liberalize spending rules for MLS owners. Doesn't necessarily mean that everybody will spend more money on their rosters, but they'll have more freedom within their rosters to spend how they wish. That's a big step for MLS. Calendar switch is coming. They've already voted that. It's happening next year. Now, yes, should it have happened this year? Maybe, but it's happening next year for sure. Yeah. Mini season in the spring, and then we take a break for summer, and then we begin 2027-28. And forever, I guess, unless they switch it back, MLS will be playing the same calendar, generally speaking, as the biggest leagues in the world. And you have TV stuff. There's always TV stuff. And, I'm sorry, did I mention there's a CBA coming up as well?
Yeah, that's a big piece of the puzzle for sure.
Yeah. So the new MLS commissioner is going to have a ton on his plate. And I can't tell you that I think Larry Berg's a better choice than David Nathanson. I don't know these guys individually. I'm sure there are people within, like my guy, Jonathan Tannenwald, knows David Nathanson. You want an opinion on David Nathanson? Go ask Jonathan Tannenwald for his opinion on David Nathanson. I'm not somebody who can speak directly to this. But I actually do think somebody who has his feet in the TV world probably best situated to help Major League Soccer forward if it cares that much about its revenue from television in order to be competitive with world leagues. Rob.
Yeah, with MLS's goals of becoming, one of the world's top leagues, what is the missing piece right now that you'd say is missing from the MLS formula? TV, right?
It's TV. It's a TV deal that is transformative rather than just something that keeps them moving in like this. MLS is not treading water. I want people to understand MLS has gone leaps and bounds beyond what people thought it could be back when it started in 96. We have moved the bar, which we rightfully should have over the last 30 years, and it's gone up. And it's now, okay, well, you're here. Now you need to be here, right? And that's of course. And the owners, for the most part, will tell you that that's the right way to think about it. You don't stop. We're content now if you are trying to build a business. Now, again, I have some issues with why fans care so much about these things. But if you are an owner or if you want the league to be competitive for the best players in the world, or you want MLS to be winning not just the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but maybe down the line Copa Libertadores if MLS gets entered into that competition, well, then you're going to have to do better with how you build your clubs. And what's the easiest way to justify spending more on your roster? It's bringing more money in from television, Rob.
Yeah, and the TV contracts and the TV numbers would probably be linked to the kind of players you can get and the players that are populating the teams. And if you're spreading the money around, the overall quality you'd think would go up because Major League Soccer rosters kind of have a donut hole in their talent as they're currently structured, and it lets other people who like the analytical and the roster building side kind of like dig into things more. I know that you talk about that a lot with the rosters changing and might be able to like dig into how the player and how the rosters are building and lets more creativity or club individuality is probably a better way to state it. It allows for the freedom rather than like, this is the best player I was able to get with the mechanisms in place. It's now like, this is the best player available within our cap space or whatever the rules may be. But then, yeah, other people have said it too, changing the calendar to make players from overseas available during the summer, during the same off season wouldn't really make sense unless you're like able to actually afford those players.
I think that I do think that maybe one thing the owners are looking at. I mean, this is about player sales because it becomes much easier to sell players. I mean, we're not that I don't know that MLS is really suffering too much in this regard, but I think they imagine it will open things up. Look at the kid from Colorado. Is it Harrington, the Australian center back? They paid $1 million for him from like Melbourne City or whatever club he came from. He's about to get them over 20 million bucks if he meets some performance incentives in his,
Really?
deal. Yeah, they're selling him for a significant amount of money. And I think that's the idea. Is MLS is like if we can line up the win, because right now it's the middle of the season for Colorado Rapids. Would they love to hold on to Harrington? Absolutely, they would, because they might have designs on winning an MLS Cup. And I bet the idea of flipping the calendar is, among other reasons, one reason to do it is so that the Rapids don't have to they don't have to sacrifice their season in order to get the money from a player like Harrington. So they can say, well, yeah, it's the summer. We can sell him and go get somebody else to replace him. And we're not sacrificing. We're not doing this mid-season. And so that's a major reason for this. But I also think from a buying and signing perspective, it just makes it more efficient. And you'll hear one way to look at this is
a lot of contracts ending in December is going to be funky here coming up too.
Well, they're going to have to figure that part out. But the other thing is, you have a lot of players that might play in MLS, quality players who might play in MLS, who might be open to this. And MLS clubs come in and they're like, hey, come over here. We'll pay you this money. Your lifestyle's incredible. And they're like, yeah, but the window's still open in Europe in the summer. And I have an opportunity to maybe join a club to start the season. And they wait. And then MLS teams have to move on, or the window closes. And MLS extended their window this season, their secondary window this season, in order to try to avoid that problem.
Yeah.
So when you line up with your calendar, now you don't have that problem at all. Now you're like, okay, we're lined up completely. If we want to, we're in it legitimately on even terms with the European club. And that player now has to make a choice. Do I sign with the MLS team or do I sign with the European club? And it's not a matter of the window closing on the MLS opportunity, and then he just goes signs in Europe and we lose out on the player. So, yeah, I mean, again, like how much that matters to you, that's up to a fan. But from a team perspective, from a league perspective, it makes sense.
And it's interesting that potential big money sale is a center back. And I wouldn't necessarily have said that MLS center backs were in demand like that in years gone by, and just participating in the ecosystem of the world in general. When I first started being educated in Major League Soccer between like 2010 and 2012, there was almost barely any connection to this sort of thing. So MLS making strides of becoming part of the world's game in general, but it'll take some work and some readjustment to fully get integrated.
I think this is tough too, right? Like this mentality, and there are newer fans, younger fans, more European focused fans who will see most of this stuff as a good thing, right? Because it lines, as you said, it lines MLS up with the rest of the soccer world. And I think you can either be a person who thinks MLS has to be unique and different, because the challenge of capturing attention in a crowded sports marketplace like America requires you to be unique and different, right? Like, why would you worry about lining up with Europe when your first concern is attracting attention in America, where there are 5 other big-time sports happening in a given moment?
True.
Right? But I think also for a lot of us who have been around since the beginning, it's like, well, MLS needs to be confident in and of itself. Like, it needs to be confident of itself. It needs to think, we're good enough. We're here. We're established. We're part of this world of football. We're part of the world of this game. We are mature enough to stand on our own 2 feet in the same part of the season as some of these other big-time American sports, and be alongside, be the evening option for all the people who might watch the Premier League on a Saturday morning, and be okay with that. Like, and just not always doubt or always think that we have to be different in order to succeed. And I think it's that's I've said this about the way that they think about the CONCACAF Champions Cup competitions and the international competitions. Sometimes MLS acts small, and there are other times when they want to act real big, which is really weird. But
yeah, I was going to say that's like a gaslighting sort of nature. Like Don Garber, constantly the bar's going all over the place when he's discussing things on topic.
Well,
he's brought things a long way, but also not very far all at the same time.
That's reflective, Rob, of the varying mentalities and ideas and and philosophies within the ownership group, within the people that own MLS. Remember, single entity own MLS, right? So you have somebody like, and I always bring him up because he's the most obvious example. You have someone like Jorge Mas, excuse me, his brother is Jose. Jorge Mas, the lead owner, the public face of Inter Miami. And that guy wants to spend money and win soccer matches and win trophies and go to South America and bring in Lionel Messi and Rodrigo de Paul and Casemiro and build a $1 billion stadium. He wants to do all those things, right? He's a fully formed American sports team owner. He's not Jerry Jones because Jerry Jones is an idiot, but he's in that vein, right?
Throw it all
He's
in
George
there.
Steinbrenner, right? He's George Steinbrenner in soccer is what Jorge Mas is. And that's interesting because there are still people in this league who own clubs and have interest in this league who don't think like that at all. They may even have interest in other sports in the NFL or whatever, but when it comes to their soccer, like, I don't know, guys. Let's just keep it chill and let's not spend too much and be too crazy about this. And it's like at some point you have to take that leap and say, we trust that we can do this. And that's kind of where MLS is at right now.
And we'll see where commissioner number 3 takes the league. And like you said, full plate on day 1 for the new commissioner when he takes over. And I think Garber is going to be in the rafters in the back rooms there for at least a year. I think I saw in some of the reporting. So it's not going to be a complete rip of the Band-Aid, but yeah, new MLS commissioner is going to be coming soon. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you for all the comments as always. Thank you to the hype points. Dan Kane, we're richer in jewels than we've ever been before.
So many jewels. Look at all these jewels we've got. Become an ultra if you're not an ultra. Become an ultra. First of all, the first thing to do is to subscribe, become a member. I'm sorry, like, subscribe, then become a member. That's becoming an ultra, become an ultra, and join the movement and all that stuff. And support the show.
Yeah, we have our next Kickathon 2 coming up in September, and I'd love to have already hit the 10,000 subscribers by then, because I'd love our goal for Kickathon to be beyond that. And so help us get to 10K in the next couple weeks so we can set our sights higher on September 16th. And I also want to shout out some champions crowned over the weekend. El Farolito, the NPSL champions for 2026.
Wow.
And then Vermont Green came to Michigan and defeated the Flint City Bucks to win back-to-back USL 2 championships.
Pretty good, Vermont Green. We talked about on Friday before that game about the idea of them being promoted. Obviously, they would be going from amateur to pro, and that's not a winning your way into the next level thing in American soccer. That's having the financial wherewithal to do it. But, we'll see. Vermont Green, incredible story. Great stuff.
Yeah, haven't lost in 2 years or something like that. Incredible run for Vermont Green, back-to-back champions. And kudos to all of those who had a deep run. And we're going to have a lot of interesting teams in next year's Open Cup due to those results in those competitions. But I'll be back on Wednesday, and I'll have a new special guest filling in for our traveling man here. So until next time, everybody, enjoy your soccer.